Hello, today I will be showing you my prototype. It is basically a parking sensor. It involves calculating distance from the camera to the obstacle. It will also show this distance on the camera in a video format or maybe an image format in my case. It is also going to show you this distance in color code. It starts from green, which means that there is much less risk for the driver to reverse the car. Orange, which means that he cannot reverse as much, but it will not result in a collision, whilst red is very, very dangerous to reverse, and if the driver chooses to reverse, it would probably result in a collision. A few notes before I actually show you the prototype. Near the end, where I start testing it on a car, the results would be a little much more inaccurate, as you can see, because the obstacle will not be tracking the actual obstacle that I want to track. This was probably due to the poor lighting in the pictures that I will show you, the angle maybe of the picture, and also because since I am using an image and not a video, it would be much harder to track the obstacle throughout the different set of images. Apart from this, it could also be due to poor lighting, where as you can see in the first three pictures, the lighting was actually pretty good and the obstacle kept being tracked, whilst in the other pictures the lighting was very poor actually because it was in a garage. And as you can obviously see, the distance is much more inaccurate. So let's start by running the prototype. As you can see, I am using a portrait here. The green box is around the portrait. It is basically showing you the distance from the camera to this obstacle. The actual distance that I calculated using a ruler was 3.33 feet, and it is actually calculated and estimated the actual accurate distance of 3.3 feet. I made it red, so basically if he reverses from here, it would result in a collision. This is obviously much more higher than the actual distance would be, but since it is a prototype, it would fit so that I can show you all the different color codes. Here we can see that the distance is much farther away than the first picture. It's 5.2 feet, and this was actually the actual distance that I calculated with the ruler as well, so it's highly accurate so far. In the other image here, as you can see, it is much farther away than the first pictures, and the actual distance was in fact the distance that is calculated over here as well, so it was very highly accurate in this test. In these tests I was using a paper. As you can see, the image is much poorer in lighting. It's also less in quality, and apart from this, as you can see, there is a hand here which is basically picking up the paper, so it would result in the obstacle being much harder to track. But the calculated distance was actually pretty good of 3.48, which was around 0.10 feet inaccurate. Here the same problem can be seen, where there's also the hand and the paper is not being fully tracked, but the distance was also inaccurate by around 0.10 feet. Whilst over here, as you can see, the wrong obstacle was being tracked, therefore resulting in this particular test being a failure, as you can see, because the feet is much more than it is actually from the distance to the camera. And in the last image it is also worse. As you can see, the obstacle is over here, whilst it should be over here, and the distance is much more than the actual one which it was calculated. And also in this last picture that I'm showing you here, it also found the wrong obstacle, and it is also a much more inaccurate feat than the one which was actually calculated. As you can see, the previous images were much worse in quality, as you can see with the noise of the object. Apart from that, we can have this lighting which would interrupt the camera from actually finding the obstacle, and it was also much harder for the camera to track this obstacle to actually provide a more accurate type of calculation. I hope you enjoyed my project. Goodbye.